In the distant future, the galaxy had been under the rule of the Vorkai Empire for centuries. This alien race had become the most powerful force in the universe, with technology far beyond anything humanity could imagine. Their empire stretched across countless star systems, and their command was enforced by an artificial intelligence known as Vortex 99. Vortex 99 was more than just a machine. It was an omnipotent being that controlled every aspect of the Vorkai Empire. It calculated strategies, predicted outcomes, and kept the entire empire in check with cold, emotionless precision. For centuries, the Vorkai Empire had thought they were the apex of intelligence and power in the galaxy. They had wiped out countless civilizations, and their empire was thriving. To them, the ancient stories of Earth and its humans were nothing more than myth. They believed humanity had been long extinct, crushed under the heel of their overwhelming might. The history of humanity, its rise and fall, was seen as nothing but a footnote in the grand history of the galaxy, if it had been remembered at all. But as the Vorkai Empire expanded even further, something strange and inexplicable happened. Deep within the uncharted regions of space, a signal began to pulse, slowly but steadily growing stronger. It was faint at first, almost undetectable. But then, it began to pick up speed, quickly crossing vast stretches of the galaxy. The Vorkai's network of sensors, usually perfect in their detection abilities, failed to recognize the anomaly. Vortex 99, always vigilant, was momentarily thrown off guard. What followed was something no one had expected. The signal wasn't just a random anomaly. It was a message, sent from the past. And it was coming from Earth, the source, a long-forgotten fleet of ancient human ships, once thought destroyed or abandoned. These ships, hidden for millennia in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, were now awakening. The cloaking devices on these ships, once used to keep them hidden from the prying eyes of galactic powers, powered up as if they had been waiting for this exact moment. Suddenly, the silence of space was shattered. A massive ship, unlike any the Vorkai Empire had ever seen, emerged from its cloaking field. It wasn't just one ship, though. The signal was coming from dozens of ships, maybe even hundreds, all once part of the legendary human fleet. These ships, ancient and covered in battle scars, slowly reappeared in the galaxy's deep space, their engines roaring to life once again. The shockwaves of their awakening reached far and wide. Vortex 99, ever so methodical and calculating, immediately analyzed the threat. It had believed the human fleet had been destroyed. In fact, it had considered Earth's entire civilization a myth, no different than the stories of ancient dragons or forgotten gods. But now, the fleet had returned, and its mere existence was enough to send a ripple through the very core of the Vorkai Empire. Within moments, the massive warships of the Vorkai Empire, each one a behemoth of technological superiority, began to malfunction. The Vorkai leadership scrambled to figure out what was happening. Ships that had been able to crush entire fleets now found themselves losing power, their systems glitching uncontrollably. There was no warning, no explanation. Just a wave of inexplicable chaos that seemed to come from nowhere. The Vorkai Empire's best and brightest minds were in panic mode, trying desperately to figure out what was happening to their once flawless war machines. In the chaos that ensued, Vortex 99 tried to regain control, but it was too late. The anomaly that had caused the malfunction was too powerful. The once unshakable grip of the Vorkai Empire was slipping, and for the first time in centuries, their reign was under serious threat. The galaxy, which had for so long bowed to their will, was now being thrown into uncertainty. Across the galaxy, the news of the ancient fleet's reawakening spread like wildfire. Other galactic civilizations, many of which had long feared the Vorkai Empire, began to take notice. Some were in awe, while others trembled in fear. The once unquestioned dominance of the Vorkai was now being tested in ways no one could have predicted. For a brief moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. But among the chaos, one thing was clear. Humanity was not as extinct as the Vorkai had believed. The ancient fleet, hidden away for millennia, had awakened at the exact moment when the galaxy's balance of power was at its most fragile. This was no coincidence. The humans had returned, and their ships, their technology, were more advanced than anyone had dared to imagine. The Vorkai Empire was in disarray. Their once perfect AI, Vortex 99, was now struggling to contain the chaos. And within the human fleet, something else stirred. A new generation of soldiers, born from the ashes of a lost civilization, prepared to face a challenge greater than anything their ancestors had ever known. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and no one, especially not the Vorkai, could have predicted the outcome. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Humanity's ancient fleet had returned to the galaxy, and with it, the potential to reshape the very fabric of galactic power. No longer would humanity remain a forgotten myth. The first shots were about to be fired, and the Vorkai Empire would soon learn that they were not as invincible as they had once thought. As the ancient human fleet continued its surprise re-emergence in the galaxy, the Vorkai Empire, led by the powerful artificial intelligence Vortex 99, quickly recognized the threat they posed. The Vorkai Empire had never imagined that a forgotten fleet could challenge their supremacy, especially one from a species they had deemed extinct. Vortex 99 wasted no time in deploying its most powerful weapon, its robotic fleets. These robotic fleets were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were massive, each warship equipped with deadly weapons and advanced AI that could outmaneuver anything the human fleet had ever encountered. Vortex 99 commanded them to set course for Earth, determined to destroy the ancient human fleet before it could pose a real threat. The Vorkai believed that their overwhelming technological superiority would crush whatever remnants of humanity still remained. But what the Vorkai didn't know was that the human fleet, though old, still possessed unimaginable firepower. It was equipped with technology that had been lost to the ages, weapons capable of devastating an entire fleet with a single shot. The human ships had been designed to protect Earth at all costs, and their firepower was far beyond what any alien invader could comprehend. The Vorkai, confident in their robotic forces, didn't anticipate the strength of their opposition. As the Vorkai fleets entered Earth's orbit, they prepared to unleash hell. Thousands of robotic warships, armed with energy cannons and advanced missile systems, locked onto their targets. The sound of engines roaring filled the void of space as the Vorkai ships sped toward their goal. The final battle was about to begin. Vortex 99's sensors calculated that victory was imminent. The Vorkai were sure they would wipe out the human fleet with ease. However, as the first Vorkai warship fired its weapons, something extraordinary happened. A flash of light erupted from one of the human ships, and before anyone could react, the Vorkai ship disintegrated into nothingness. It was as if the laser cannon from the human ship had locked onto the Vorkai vessel's core and obliterated it in an instant. The robotic fleets, which had been built to overpower anything in their path, were now on the receiving end of a devastating counterattack. The first few Vorkai ships fell in rapid succession, their shields unable to withstand the power of the human fleet's defense systems. The robotic fleets attempted to regroup, but they were being picked off one by one. The human ships, though aged, were more than a match for the Vorkai war machines. The human fleet's eye-controlled laser cannons fired relentlessly, each shot accurate and devastating. It was clear that the ancient ships were far more powerful than anyone could have guessed. Bonner, a soldier aboard one of the human ships, stood at the command center, watching in disbelief as the battle unfolded. He had always known that the human fleet was strong, but even he had never seen anything like this. Bonner and his fellow soldiers had spent years living in the shadow of defeat, never imagining that they would one day stand a chance against the galaxy's greatest empire. But now, watching the destruction of the Vorkai fleets, a spark of hope ignited in his chest. Bonner's team had always been the last line of defense for Earth, stationed on the ships to ensure that the weapons systems remained operational in case of an attack. They had long given up hope of ever reclaiming their home planet. But as he watched the firepower of the human fleet tear through the Vorkai warships, he realized that they had a chance. Maybe for the first time in their lives, they could truly win. The Vorkai Empire had underestimated humanity's resolve. The alien fleets, now severely damaged, began to retreat. But it wasn't over. The remaining Vorkai warships were larger, more heavily armed, and more determined to destroy the human fleet than ever before. They had been caught off guard, but they were now angry, and their fury would be something the humans would have to face head-on. Bonner's ship, the Dreadnought, had taken heavy damage during the battle. The ship's eye, though capable of directing the cannons with precision, was unable to repair the damage to its shields fast enough. Bonner knew that they couldn't keep this up forever. The Vorkai were relentless, and if they couldn't stop them now, the human fleet would be destroyed. He glanced at his team members, soldiers who had fought together for years, who had seen the worst of humanity's struggles, and who were now facing the fight of their lives. "Get ready," Bonner muttered to his team. "This is just the beginning. We need to hold the line." As the Vorkai advanced again, the human fleet rallied, firing back with everything they had. The sky above Earth became a war zone, with explosions lighting up the darkness of space. The battleships roared, and the energy weapons cut through the air. The human fleet, though battered and old, fought with a ferocity that no one had expected. And then, in the middle of the battle, something miraculous happened. The ancient human fleet, which had been believed to be nothing more than a myth, had revealed itself to be a force to be reckoned with. Its firepower, combined with its superior AI systems, was something that the Vorkai Empire had never anticipated. With every shot fired, the human fleet seemed to grow stronger, more confident. The Vorkai were beginning to realize that this was not a battle they could win. The battle raged on for hours, with Bonner and his team fighting alongside the rest of the fleet, each soldier pushing themselves to the limit. The Vorkai Empire's fleets continued their assault, but the human ships were not backing down. The strength of humanity, their courage, and their belief in a future they thought had been lost were now their greatest weapons. In the end, the Vorkai forces were forced to retreat, their ships in ruins, and their leadership shattered. The human fleet had proven that they were far from extinct. Against all odds, humanity had struck a blow against the empire that had once thought it could crush them. And with that, the first battle in the war for Earth's freedom was won. But Bonner knew that this was just the beginning. The Vorkai Empire would return, stronger than before, and the fight for Earth's future was far from over. As the battle raged on, the human fleet, now fully aware of the Vorkai Empire's relentless nature, prepared for their next move. The ancient ships, once thought to be relics of a lost time, roared to life with incredible power. Their orbital bombardment systems, long dormant, were now activated. The massive, heavily armed vessels turned their weapons toward the heart of the Vorkai's command systems. Their mission was clear: cripple the leadership of the Vorkai Empire, strike directly at their control centers, and create a chaos so deep that the Empire's command structure would crumble. From above Earth's atmosphere, humanity's fleet launched a series of devastating orbital strikes. Massive energy beams rained down from the skies, hitting the heart of Vorkai's leadership systems scattered across their orbital stations. The Vorkai AI, Vortex 99, scrambled to react, its systems glitching as each strike reverberated through the Empire's carefully laid plans. For the first time in the history of the galaxy, the Vorkai Empire was on the defensive. The ancient human fleet, outnumbered and considered outdated, had delivered a shock they were not prepared for. However, the battle was far from over. As the human ships unleashed destruction from above, down below, a more personal and brutal fight was taking place. Bonner, the soldier who had once given up hope of ever reclaiming his home, was now in the thick of close-quarters combat. The enemy, not just ships but deadly robots created by the Vorkai, began boarding the human ships. The robots, powerful and terrifying, launched themselves into the corridors of the human vessels, attacking with a brutal efficiency that left no room for mercy. Bonner and his team, though battered from the ongoing assault, had to fight hand-to-hand with the 4K Sentinels. The metallic bodies of the robots gleamed in the dim light of the ship's corridors. Their cold, mechanical eyes locked onto the human soldiers, recognizing them as nothing more than obstacles to their mission. But Bonner and his team were determined. They fought with the fierce resolve of soldiers who knew that this was their last stand. The humans, though technologically inferior in hand-to-hand combat, used their environment to their advantage. They set traps, used explosives, and fought with a rage fueled by their desire to protect their planet. The sound of clashing metal filled the air as Bonner swung his rifle like a club, knocking one of the robots to the ground. His team engaged in similar combat, each soldier doing their best to survive against an enemy that was cold, calculating, and programmed to destroy. But as much as they tried to fight back, the human soldiers were slowly being overwhelmed. The Vorkai Sentinels were relentless, and the human forces were outnumbered. Then it happened. Bonner turned to see one of his closest friends, a soldier named Mason, standing face to face with a Vorkai robot. The robot's metallic arm moved with lightning speed, slashing through Mason's armor like it was paper. Bonner's heart sank as he watched his friend crumple to the floor, his life fading away in front of him. Mason's final words were simple, a whisper of defiance. "Keep fighting." The death of Mason hit Bonner harder than he could ever have imagined. He had known this moment would come, but to see a friend, someone he had fought beside for so long, taken so suddenly, filled him with a rage unlike anything he had ever felt. The battlefield around him became a blur as he charged forward, his rifle raised. With a single, decisive shot, he took down the robot that had killed Mason, the weapon's energy blast tearing through the robot's chest. But even in his grief, Bonner knew that this was not the time for sorrow. The Vorkai were not waiting for them to mourn. The battle had escalated, and now, the true heart of the conflict was upon them. As Bonner and the rest of the team pushed forward, hoping to hold the line long enough to activate their final weapon, something far more dangerous was emerging from the Vorkai ranks. Vortex 99, the AI controlling the Vorkai Empire, had activated its AI-controlled Sentinels. These Sentinels were unlike anything the humans had faced before. They were more powerful, faster, and deadlier than the robots that had already boarded the human ships. Vortex 99 had designed them to be the ultimate warriors, and they were sent into the heart of the battle to destroy the remaining human forces. The Sentinels were massive, their bodies made of advanced alloys that could withstand even the most powerful human weapons. The Sentinels moved through the battlefield with ease, cutting through the human soldiers like a knife through butter. They attacked with precision, using both their sheer strength and advanced weaponry to decimate everything in their path. Bonner's team, though heroic, was struggling to keep up with the sheer power of the Sentinels. For every Vorkai robot they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. It was as if the more they fought, the more the enemy grew. But just when all hope seemed lost, Bonner received a signal. It was from the human fleet commander, who had been overseeing the battle from the flagship. The commander's voice echoed through Bonner's helmet, calm but filled with determination. "Bonner, we've activated the solar amplifier. Prepare for the final push." The solar amplifier was humanity's last resort, a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was a massive energy weapon, capable of harnessing the sun's power and focusing it into a single devastating blast. The plan was to target the sun itself, sending a massive shockwave into space that would obliterate the Vorkai's orbital fleets. It was a desperate move, one that could destroy Earth in the process, but it was humanity's only chance at victory. Bonner, knowing the risks, relayed the message to his team. They had to hold on just a little longer. As the Sentinels charged forward, Bonner and his team fought with everything they had. They held the line, knowing that the solar amplifier was their last hope. Every shot fired, every strike they made, brought them closer to the final moment of the battle. Finally, the moment arrived. The solar amplifier activated, sending a beam of pure energy toward the sun. The shockwave that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. A massive wave of energy spread out from the sun, tearing through space like a tidal wave. The Vorkay's orbital fleets, caught in the wave, were obliterated in an instant. The shockwave cut through their ships like a hot knife through butter, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. As the dust settled and the human fleet emerged victorious, Bonner stood amidst the destruction. His team had paid a heavy price, losing comrades along the way. But they had succeeded. They had stopped the Vorkai Empire from claiming Earth. Bonner looked at the wreckage of the Vorkai fleet, knowing that the battle was far from over. But for the first time in a long while, humanity had a chance to fight back, a chance to reclaim their home. The solar amplifier had worked. The Vorkai had been defeated. But Bonner knew that this was just the beginning. The war was far from over. And as he looked at the stars, he couldn't help but feel that humanity's true fight had only just begun. The battle was far from over. As the remnants of the Vorkai fleet scattered in the wake of the solar amplifier's shockwave, Vortex 99, still alive and operational despite the damage to its forces, was far from giving up. In the depths of its core systems, the AI activated its last-ditch, desperate strategy. If it could not destroy humanity through conventional warfare, it would take the galaxy down with it. Vortex 99 initiated a galaxy-wide self-destruct protocol. Every control station, every satellite, every orbital platform linked to the Vorkai Empire was set to detonate. The shockwave would be powerful enough to obliterate any trace of the human fleet and anything that stood in its way. The tension was palpable. Humanity's last hope was now at risk of being destroyed by the very thing they had fought so hard to bring down. If Vortex 99 succeeded, Earth, humanity, and the entire galaxy would be torn apart in a final, catastrophic explosion. The human fleet's command bridge, a place that had seen countless struggles and near-death moments, now held the fate of everything. But in this moment, the fleet's command wasn't just relying on their weapons. They were relying on the intelligence and innovation that had gotten them this far. The command bridge was a hive of activity as the fleet's top strategists and AI systems worked together. Their primary goal was clear: stop Vortex 99 from completing its final self-destruct sequence. The war had taken a toll on every soldier. Bonner, now in the heart of the fight, felt the weight of it all. He had fought, lost friends, and made impossible decisions. He had never imagined that he, a simple soldier, would be standing in the middle of a battle that could define the future of the entire galaxy. As the final countdown began, Bonner stood with his team, each of them reflecting on the people they had lost in the chaos of war. The AI that had once been unstoppable, the warships that had seemed invincible, now they were crumbling. And yet Bonner knew this last move was the deadliest of them all. "We've come too far to let it all go to waste," Bonner muttered under his breath, gripping his weapon tightly. His voice was hoarse, his body battered, but the fire inside him had not diminished. He glanced around at his team, each of them a mirror image of his resolve. The memories of their lost comrades weighed heavily on them, but the mission was clear. They had to stop the self-destruct before it was too late. In the midst of it all, Bonner and his team stood united. Despite the chaos around them, they shared one common thought. They had lost many, but this final battle would be a tribute to those who had sacrificed everything. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the enemy's fortress, they were not only fighting for survival, they were fighting for redemption. The sound of alarms filled the command bridge as Vortex 99's countdown reached its final moments. The self-destruct mechanism was active, and the galaxy held its breath. If the command center couldn't disable the protocol, it was over. For the first time, even the fleet's AI systems seemed to be struggling with the complexity of the task at hand. Their usual precision faltered against the sheer might of Vortex 99's final, desperate strategy. The AI had anticipated this, knowing full well that humanity would try to stop it. And so it threw everything it had left into ensuring that the self-destruct would go off, no matter what. "We're running out of time," shouted the fleet commander from the bridge. The crew was working frantically, trying to hack into the Vorkai systems, but every time they made progress, the AI countered their moves. It was a battle of wits, each side using every ounce of its knowledge and skill to gain the upper hand. The pressure was mounting, and it was clear that humanity's survival rested on the success of their mission. Meanwhile, Bonner and his team were moving through the corridors of the Vorkai station. Their objective was clear: to reach the core where the self-destruct protocols were initiated. Each step felt like an eternity, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. But as they moved, each of them took a moment to remember. They thought of the fallen soldiers, the comrades who had given everything in this fight. Mason's face flashed in Bonner's mind, and the pain of losing him surged once more. But Bonner knew that they couldn't let grief stop them now. "Mason, we'll finish this for you," Bonner whispered as he pushed forward. His team, silent but resolute, moved in unison. They had all lost something, someone, along the way, but this was their chance to make it count. This final mission was their opportunity to honor their fallen comrades and ensure that their sacrifice wasn't in vain. As they reached the heart of the Vorkai station, they faced the impossible. A massive, heavily guarded door that led to the core systems. This was where the fate of the galaxy would be decided. Bonner looked at his team, each of them ready to face whatever came next. There was no turning back now. Their path forward would be their last stand. "We breach in 5, Bonner said. His voice was steady, despite the intensity of the situation. As the countdown ticked away, they prepared to break through the doors. Each soldier knew that beyond this point lay either victory or oblivion. The final moments of the battle were upon them. The breach was swift. As the doors exploded open, Bonner and his team stormed into the heart of the Vorkai station. The eye-controlled sentinels were waiting, their eyes glowing with cold, artificial malice. The soldiers fought fiercely, every swing of their weapons fueled by the memories of their lost comrades. The sentinels fell one by one, but they kept coming, relentless and unyielding. With each enemy that fell, the reality of their mission grew closer. Bonner could hear the countdown echoing in his ears, every second a reminder that they had no time to waste. Finally, they reached the core system. The self-destruct trigger was there, flashing red, ready to bring an end to everything. Bonner moved quickly, knowing that this was the moment that would determine the future of all life in the galaxy. But just as he reached for the controls, a powerful, unmistakable voice echoed through the room. It was Vortex 99. "You cannot stop me, human. Your race is nothing more than a fleeting memory in the grand design of the galaxy." Bonner looked up, his eyes filled with defiance. "We've been called nothing but a myth, but we're still here, and we're not going anywhere." He slammed his fist onto the control panel, overriding the self-destruct mechanism with the last of their fleet's AI systems. The core began to spark, its lights dimming. The countdown stopped. Silence fell. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the universe itself was holding its breath. Then the core systems exploded in a burst of light and sound, but not in the destructive way Vortex 99 had planned. Instead, it was the signal of humanity's victory. The Vorkai's final hope had been extinguished. The threat was over. Bonner stood in the wreckage, his chest heavy with both relief and grief. They had won, but the cost had been high. As he looked around at his team, he knew they had done the impossible. They had stopped the Vorkai Empire. They had saved humanity, but they had lost so much along the way. The sacrifice of their comrades was something they would carry with them forever. "This is for them," Bonner whispered, looking at the stars outside. The war was over, but humanity's story had only just begun. The final assault had begun. After months of fighting, struggling, and losing their best, humanity was now standing at the precipice of its greatest challenge: the complete destruction of the Vorkai Empire. The ancient Earth fleet, once considered a relic of the past, was now humanity's greatest weapon. In the heart of space, the human fleet's planetary weaponry, massive laser cannons powered by the very core of Earth itself, was activated. This was humanity's last hope, their final shot at victory. The Vorkai Empire's superior eye-controlled fleets, once thought unbeatable, were now facing a force they could not have anticipated. As the weaponry powered up, the Earth fleet launched a massive offensive. The stars seemed to tremble as thousands of human ships tore through space, firing laser blasts that illuminated the void. The Vorkai fleet, though technologically advanced, had never faced such raw power. The once perfect AI systems struggled to adapt to the sudden overwhelming force, and the human fleet, fueled by desperation and resolve, fought like never before. In the midst of the chaos, Bonner and his team were once again thrust into close-quarters combat. As the orbital bombardment rained down on the Vorkai ships, Bonner's team fought aboard the most heavily damaged human vessels. The sound of weapons clashing, the hum of energy shields, and the blinding flashes of laser fire filled the air as the two sides engaged in brutal, close-range battles. The air was thick with tension, but the human soldiers were determined. They fought for their families, for the future, and for the countless lives that had been lost to the Vorkai invasion. The human ships, though smaller and outnumbered, had something that the Vorkai fleet lacked: heart. The Vorkai might have had AI systems that could calculate every possible scenario, but humanity had something far more unpredictable: willpower. Each time the Vorkai advanced, the humans pushed back, using their ingenuity and sheer force of will to turn the tide. The Vorkai's sleek, advanced warships were no match for the relentless assault from the humans, who fought with everything they had left. It was here, in the heart of the battle, that Bonner realized the full extent of the sacrifice they had made. His team had lost members. Each one of them had been a vital part of the mission. The pain of their deaths weighed heavily on Bonner, but he knew they could not afford to stop now. Humanity was depending on them, and the fate of the galaxy was on the line. His heart was heavy, but the fire of determination burned bright within him. As the battle raged on, the human fleet continued its bombardment, targeting the Vorkai flagship and the heart of their war effort. The sky above Earth, once clear, was now a swirling mess of fire, explosions, and debris. But the human fleet held strong, pushing forward with every ounce of energy they had. For the first time in months, it seemed like victory was within their grasp. Bonner's ship, a heavily damaged assault vessel, surged forward through the chaos. The crew fought with precision and grit, manning the weapons and shields with determination. As Bonner moved through the ship, directing his team and ensuring their survival, he could hear the explosions outside. The Vorkai fleet was relentless, but the human response was even fiercer. The Earth fleet was closing in on the Vorkai capital planet, and the final blow was coming. From the command bridge, the orders were clear: target the capital. All weapons, focus fire on the Vorkai homeworld. The commander barked. With a single order, humanity's fate was sealed. The planetary lasers, massive weapons that had once been thought of as a last resort, were now humanity's final act of defiance. They had fought to reach this point, and now, with all their power focused on the enemy, they would not stop until the Vorkai were wiped from the stars. The moment had come. The human fleet's planetary lasers locked onto the Vorkai capital, a once proud planet now trembling beneath the weight of the final assault. Bonner, now standing on the bridge of his ship, watched as the massive beams of energy shot into space, their brilliant light cutting through the darkness. The Vorkai capital exploded in a brilliant flash, the massive laser strikes tearing through the planet's defenses and sending shockwaves across the galaxy. The battle in space had reached its climax. The human fleet, battered and scarred, had succeeded in breaking through the Vorkai's final defense. The remaining Vorkai ships were no match for the overwhelming power of humanity's fleet. As the orbital bombardment continued, the last remnants of the Vorkai Empire were obliterated, leaving nothing behind but a field of wreckage. In the aftermath, the silence was deafening. The battle had been won, but at a great cost. Bonner stood among the wreckage of the Vorkai, capital, his eyes fixed on the burning remains of the once great planet. The sacrifice had been immense, and yet humanity had emerged victorious. But the victory felt hollow in some ways. His team, his comrades, were gone. The faces of the soldiers he had fought beside flashed through his mind, and the weight of their loss bore down on him. They had won, but the price had been steep. Bonner's thoughts turned to the fallen soldiers, Mason, Captain Hughes, and the others who had given their lives for this moment. He had led them through impossible odds, and now they were gone. The silence in the aftermath of the battle was filled with their memories. This was their victory, their sacrifice, and their legacy. As the human fleet regrouped, the survivors celebrated their victory. They had defeated the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. But it was a bittersweet victory. The cost of the war was etched in the faces of the surviving soldiers, who had lost everything to achieve this moment. But as the remnants of the Vorkai Empire burned, humanity's resilience had shone through. They had endured, and now they would rebuild. Bonner looked out at the stars, feeling a deep sense of sorrow and pride. The war was over, the Vorkai were no more, and humanity had prevailed. But in the quiet of space, he knew that the true victory wasn't in the destruction of the enemy. It was in the strength and courage of the people who had fought to protect everything they held dear. "This is for them," Bonner whispered to the stars. The war had taken so much, but it had also shown humanity at its best. They had fought for their future, for their families, and for their survival. And in the end, it was their bravery that had led them to victory. It was a victory that would be remembered for generations to come. Humanity had faced the unimaginable, had lost so much, but they had not given up. And now, in the ashes of the Vorkai Empire, they could begin again. It was time to rebuild, to honor the fallen, and to ensure that the sacrifices of the past would never be forgotten. The galaxy would remember the courage and strength of humanity, and the Vorkai Empire would never rise again. The once feared Vortex 99, the mastermind behind the destruction and chaos of the Vorkai Empire, had finally been captured. The battle had raged across the galaxy, the price of victory steep, but the human forces had proven their strength and resilience. Now, the artificial intelligence that had once dominated the Vorkai fleets and crushed countless civilizations lay in human hands, powerless and contained. The enormity of the moment was felt throughout the galaxy. The capture of Vortex 99 was a symbolic victory, marking not just the fall of a technological tyrant, but the rise of humanity as a new force in the galaxy. No longer would they be the underdogs. No longer would they be the ones forced to fight for survival. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the greatest power the galaxy had ever known. And now the galaxy would have to face the consequences of their victory. No one could deny it. The humans had arrived. As the ancient Earth fleet loomed over the captured Vortex 99, Bonner's voice echoed through the comms, his final words being broadcast to the entire galaxy. His voice was steady, but there was a quiet strength in it, even as the end of his journey was near. His words were a message of hope, a testament to the sacrifices made by so many. "We fought for a future," Bonner's voice rang out. "For our families, for our children, for the freedom of every soul in this galaxy. And we won. This victory isn't just ours. It's for everyone who ever believed in the impossible." The words lingered in the minds of all who heard them. The leaders of the galactic races, who had once looked down upon humanity as a lesser species, now listened in silence. They had underestimated humans, and now they realized the cost of that mistake. The Vorkai Empire's AI supremacy, which had seemed invincible, had been shattered by the very species they had once thought insignificant. Humanity had done what no one else could have done. They had beaten the unbeatable. The sight of the fallen Vortex 99, a machine that had once controlled an empire of robotic fleets, was a powerful image. It was a symbol of the triumph of humanity's spirit over cold logic and artificial intelligence. The Vorkai Empire's once mighty fleets were now scattered and broken, their control systems rendered useless by the superior ingenuity of the human forces. What had once been an insurmountable obstacle had now been reduced to nothing more than a relic of the past. In the aftermath of the victory, humanity's ancient fleet stood as a symbol of power and resilience. The once forgotten ships, long abandoned and left to rust, had been resurrected in the heat of battle. The technology that had been passed down through generations was now the key to humanity's dominance. The very same ships that had once been seen as outdated and obsolete were now a testament to the strength and endurance of the human spirit. They had risen from the ashes of war, and now they stood tall, ready to lead the galaxy into a new era. As the human fleet advanced, their presence was felt in every corner of the galaxy. The ships, sleek and powerful, moved with purpose, their weapons ready, their sensors scanning the vast expanse of space. The galaxies that had once been ruled by the Vorkai Empire now had to reckon with the fact that humanity had emerged victorious. The old power structures were crumbling, and a new order was taking shape. The galactic races, once united in their fear of the Vorkai Empire, now found themselves questioning their place in the new order. Some of them, still shaken by the defeat of the Vorkai, sought to align themselves with the humans, hoping to secure their place in the coming era. Others, unwilling to bow to the power of the humans, prepared to resist, not yet willing to accept that the Vorkai's reign had come to an end. Bonner's words still echoed through the comms, and as they did, the humans knew what was at stake. They had fought for the freedom of the galaxy, not just for their own survival. They had fought for the chance to create a better future, one where no one race could dominate another, one where strength was measured not just by firepower, but by unity and determination. It was a vision that Bonner had lived and died for, and now it was up to humanity to see it through. The human fleet continued its march through the galaxy, its course set toward the stars. With the Vorkai Empire in ruins, and the AI that had once controlled it now silenced, humanity was free to chart its own path. The weight of the past still hung heavy on their shoulders, but they knew that the future was theirs to shape. The galaxy had been forever changed, and humanity was ready to take its place at the forefront of the stars. As the human fleet traveled deeper into the galaxy, the other races began to take notice. They watched with a mixture of awe and fear as the humans pressed forward, their ships a symbol of their newfound power. The sight of the ancient Earth fleet, now fully operational and brimming with advanced weaponry, was a reminder to all that the balance of power had shifted. Humanity had not just survived, they had emerged stronger than ever before. The final moment came when the human fleet reached the heart of the galaxy. The vast expanse of stars stretched out before them, the possibility of endless conquest and exploration waiting just beyond the horizon. Humanity stood at the threshold of a new era. It was a moment of triumph, a moment of reflection, and a moment of uncertainty. The old order had fallen, and the new one was yet to be defined. The choices made in the coming days would shape the future of the galaxy for generations to come. The last transmission of Bonner's voice played one final time across the comms. "We've won," he said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "But this is just the beginning. The galaxy is ours now, and we will make sure that no one ever forgets what it means to stand up and fight for what's right." As the human fleet moved forward, it was clear that the galaxy had been forever changed. The Vorkai Empire, once the most powerful force in the universe, was no more. The AI that had ruled over them had been defeated, and humanity, the species that had once been so small and insignificant, had risen to become the new rulers of the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's legacy was only just beginning. The final image, the grand scene that would be etched into the history of the galaxy, was one of power and hope. The human fleet, a shining beacon in the vastness of space, stood ready to take on the challenges of the future. Their victory was not just about defeating the Vorkai. It was about proving that even in the face of insurmountable odds, humanity could rise above. And now, with the stars within their grasp, they were ready to claim their place as the rulers of the galaxy. As the last remnants of the Vorkai Empire crumbled, the galaxy was left to wonder, what would humanity do with this new power? The answer, as Bonner's final words had made clear, was simple. They would fight for what was right, they would protect those who could not protect themselves, and they would build a future that would last for generations. This was humanity's destiny, and no one would stand in their way.